It's October 9, 2020. I'm Todd Dunn, and I'm back over here at Tortuga to start removing the bad wood. What I'm going to do today is cut out some of this bad wood. I have marked where I want to cut, and what I've done is I've set my little skill saw up to cut just slightly under the thickness of the planking. This planking is 7/8 of an inch, so I can cut through the planking without cutting into the frames. So I'm going to make a couple of quick cuts here and see how it goes. Okay, there's the first cut, and for the rest of the cuts I'm going to use my oscillating saw because it's a lot more precise, but that got me through the bulk of it. Okay, here we go with the oscillating saw. Okay, there's the first cuts out. Now I should be able to pry that piece of wood out with a little bit of work here. Get some screwdrivers, a wood chisel, and get to go. I'm just going to see how well this will work. What I'm going to do is cut short scarfs at either end, just to fit the rest, to give me a little bit better bonding surface. And that doesn't want to come out there. Go. And we can take the caulking cotton out, the caulk. That looks pretty good on this end. I think I got good wood there. It's a little soft right in here. I'm going to maybe take a little bit more out of there with the oscillating saw. I might have to cut a little further down. Depends on how soft this is. This is the piece of wood I was going to fit in here. And I can see I need to cut just a little bit more out. It'll fit there, but I need a little bit more out in here. Actually, what I need to do is get the rest of that caulk out. It shouldn't take too long. I'll just take the chisel and scrape that caulk off. Side. This is just seam compound here that I'm removing. gonna fit in there now. Yeah, that's gonna fit just fine. So what I need to do now is cut little scarfs at the end here, and then I will cut matching scarves in this piece of wood, and we'll be ready to put that in. I'm not going to do that today though, because I don't have any epoxy with me, and it's supposed to be a little cold tonight, so I don't think I'm going to be buying any. Okay, where did I put that? What I'm going to do here is try to cut a 45-degree angle scarf in, which is always a little tricky to do because you got to hold things and cut at the same time. Okay. I don't think I went quite deep enough. I'm going to have to recut that after I remove that piece of wood. Pop this out. And I lost my angle. There we go. Pretty much a 45-degree scarf. I got a nice feather edge there. So I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we will be ready to cut matching scarves in my piece of wood. And this is just a plank edge repair. If I was going through the whole plank, I would cut a 7 or 8 to 1 scarf in here that would extend back to about here. But since this is just a little piece that's going to be edge glued here and then just glued in there, I think this will be more than adequate. This is above the water line as well. So let us get my speed square out and use it to cut the other side as well. Be able to pry that out, and we'll see how much adjustment I need to make. Yeah, looks like a fair amount. Okay, now that I've got it started, there we go. When I glue this in, I'm going to use thickened epoxy, so any little irregularities should be cleaned up pretty well with the epoxy. And these are pretty nearly 45-degree cuts. So what I'm going to do is make a 45-degree cut on each end of my repair piece with the skill saw. And that should then fit in there pretty well. So I'll do one end, and then we'll measure it all up and do the other end. So I'll do that off camera. There we go. This piece is fit. It'll be, when I put it in, I'll screw through into the frames. And I'll also put a temporary screw through here at an angle to hold the scarf joint together. And this will be filled with thickened epoxy. And that will come out of there relatively easily. Slide the chisel in and pop it out. So, first piece is fit, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do up here, except that I didn't have a convenient piece of wood to cut out. So, one plank edge ready to glue in. Just have to drill it and get it ready for epoxy. And rather than show you doing the same thing here again, let's move over to the other side of the boat and make those cuts and open that hole up. Okay, here we are on the starboard side of the hull, where I'm going to put joining scarf in, and what I have to do is cut through all the way through the plank here and here, and those cut, and then remove this piece of wood. Before I can remove this piece of wood, I have to remove some fasteners. I've got 8 fasteners to remove, so that will be fairly straightforward. So I'm going to take those fasteners out, and once the fasteners are out, I'll make these 2 cuts and remove this chunk of wood right here. And then the next step after that will be cutting in the scarves from here to here and from here to here. Now those are somewhat longer scarves, and I will be cutting them with the oscillating saw. Okay, I'm going to go get some tools and take these fasteners out. Okay, I've got 8 fasteners to remove, so what I'm going to do is just knock the bungs out. I'm not worried about making the wood stay pretty because this wood is all going away. Once I get that exposed. Now if I was trying to take these bungs out without marring the wood, what I would do probably is use a Forstner bit the same size as the bungs to drill them out, which would be fairly quick and easy. Okay, there we go. But all I'm trying to do here is expose the screws so that I can easily get them, back them out. Now these are mostly coming out pretty easily because of course the wood is rotted, so I don't have any issue popping those out. Okay, so there are 8 fasteners exposed, and the tool I'm going to use to back these out is a driver. Much easier than taking them out by hand. Now that one is falling through. Okay, so those are all out. And I guess what I might do is see if I can put one back into the butt block so that hopefully it will stay in place. Okay, that should hold the butt block in place as I remove the wood. So the next step is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to get my oscillating saw out again and cut along my lines. Just cut right through. So at this point I should, with the aid of my screwdriver, hammer, and wood chisel, be able to pry some of this bad wood out. Now I'm going to try to take this side out first. So I'll go in through a seam here. See what I can do. Take bad wood out. Okay, this will just take a little time. I'll switch to wood chisel and knock this wood out. Except I put the wood chisel on the other side. So I'll see what I can do here. There we go. There's my butt block, which I will get out once I get this wood out. A little bit more to go. See, this bit of planking was in terrible shape. So, let's see if I can get this out now. Not quite yet. And this screw here is just to keep the butt block from falling down inside. Well, I'm right up against a frame here, so what I think I'm going to do is use the oscillating saw to cut through the wood against the frame so I can get that butt block out of there. Okay, I should be able to pry this guy out. A little bit more here. Well, I'm going to have to hang on to it and back that screw out and then take it out. Screw is keeping me from angling it enough to take it out. This can be a little tricky sometimes. There we go. And the butt block itself is damaged, but I think I know why this particular piece of wood failed. And that is that there's a port light right above it that had a leak that I have repaired. And that leak was letting water run down the inside of the hull, which rotted the plank out from inside. So, at this point, I just have to remove the rest of this wood back here and clean up the top edge, which is up there, and then we will be ready to cut my scarves. Now, I should hopefully be able to pry that out because I cut most of the way through. And that's ready to go. So what remains at this point is to remove 4 more fasteners in the parts of the planking where my scarf is going to be. So now let's talk about how I am going to cut the scarf, because what I have to do is cut an angle starting here, going to here, that is the thickness of the plank. Now this planking stock is 7/8 of an inch thick. So I have to cut a fairly flat angle in there. I will be using the oscillating saw, but there's a trick to it. And what I'm going to do is show you how I do that. Now what I'm going to do to cut the scarf is I'm going to make some reference cuts into the plank for the depth of the scarf at different places along its length. I'm cutting a 7-inch long scarf, so I have measured 3.5 inches over from the end of the plank, and that's going to be the center line of the scarf. You can see here, 3.5, 3.5. The plank is 7/8 of an inch thick. So what I've done is I've taken my oscillating saw, and on the blade I've taped off 7/16, or half the thickness of the scarf, on the blade. And I'm going to make a plunge cut to that depth all the way along this line, which is pretty straightforward here. Okay, that gives me a reference line right there that is half the total depth of the scarf at the halfway point. Now I will make another cut here at 3/4 of the scarf width from this edge. I'll make that line here, and I'll make a cut 1/4 the depth of the scarf, since I'm going to be cutting into the wood like that. And then 1/4 of the width of the scarf, I'll make a cut 1 3/4 inches. I'll make a cut here, 3/4 the total depth of the scarf. I'm going to do the same thing over here, and we'll start our cut. Okay, 2 of my reference lines are done. So I'm going to put 4 more reference lines on there, and okay, now I'm ready to make my next cut, which is 1/4 of the depth of the scarf, which in this case is 7/32 of an inch, which is a pretty shallow cut. So I'll get set here and we'll make this cut. All right, so that one's finished. I've just got 2 more reference cuts to do, and this one will be 3/4 of the inch of the thickness, or 21/32 of an inch. So I got to go mark my blade. Okay, this cut's going to go a little slower because it's a deeper cut, so just take a little longer. Okay, now all my cuts are made. So at this point, I can mark the end of my scarf precisely and start cutting until I hit these vertical cuts. Okay, my scarf begins right here, so I'm going to cut at a very shallow angle from here over to this first cut that I made into the plank. I'll just pry this piece of wood off, and you can see where my cut is, and you can see where I'm shallow and where I'm deep. I'll just make a cut down here along the plank edge. And at this point, what I have to do is just even up these angles. Okay, I've got a reasonably good surface there that I can use as a guide for my saw to cut through to the next vertical cut. Okay, so what I need to do is just get a chisel, and I can pop this piece of wood off now and see how far I cut in. So I'm just going to make a cut along the bottom here. Okay, I'm going to see if I can pop that off. Oh, there we go. Comes right off in places where I'm a little shallow here, so I just have to deepen it up. And you can see I just make cut after cut until I finish the scarf. Now, I always cut the scarf on the boat before I cut the scarf on the plank that's going to go in here, because it's much easier to cut a very precise scarf on the end of a piece of planking than it is on the hull. So I'll cut the one on the boat and measure it up and then match what goes onto the plank to what's on the boat, rather than just saying, well, it'll be a 7-inch scarf. A little sanding to get it finalized, which won't take that long. I'll just bring my random orbital sander in with some relatively coarse paper and sand that surface down until I have a nice, relatively smooth surface for my scarf. And basically, that's what there is involved in cutting a scarf onto the boat. Now, if I made my angle too steep, I can always just move the end of the scarf back a little bit and recut it and hopefully get it to the length I want. But I came out pretty good. I'm just about feather edge there. A little bit more down. But that should be pretty good. And we will now cut the one on the other side, but as I said, I have to go home because my wife has some things for me to do this afternoon, so I will not be able to take the time to cut this one. But they take about 30 minutes each, and then they're done. Anyway, that's where we are right now on this repair to Tortuga's topside planking. I have one more scarf to cut, and I've got to open up that opening on the other side and cut matching pieces for over here and for the other side, and then glue them in. So that's that. Hope you enjoyed seeing how I do this. This isn't the way everybody does it, but it's my method. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell so you'll find out when my next wooden boat repair video will be posted. I got to clean up now. Thanks for watching.